Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons and love are told. If you're new here, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful stories that will keep you hooked. Now let me take you into my life. I never thought at 72, I would sit at a restaurant table across from my only son, Martin, and feel more like a burden than a father. The air smelled of roasted garlic and polished wood, and the light fixtures above Bella Vista flickered in a way that reminded me of old chandeliers in a theater. I had chosen this place, not Martin. I wanted a neutral ground, somewhere public where tempers might stay cool. I knew that when money was the topic, heat always rose between us. Martin looked uneasy, tapping his fingers against his glass. Clarissa, his wife, sat stiffly beside him. She had a sharpness in her eyes that always reminded me of glass shards, beautiful, but dangerous if you brushed against them wrong. Martin cleared his throat and leaned forward. Dad, we need to talk about business. I have an opportunity, something big, but I need your help. I sipped my water slowly, watching the way his jaw clenched. How much are we talking about, son? $500,000, he said. Just like that, as if the number was a casual request for a cup of tea. Clarissa's hand slid over his, squeezing like she was there to encourage him, but I saw through it. She was there to push him, to drive him forward with her own ambition. $500,000. I almost laughed, but the pain in my chest kept me still. Martin, I said gently, you've tried businesses before. Do you remember the restaurant? The real estate flip? The app idea? You don't have a good record. And my assets, they're not liquid. Most of what I have is in investments, property. I can't just hand over that kind of money. Clarissa tilted her head, smiling in that polite way that always held poison underneath. But you could sell your home, Walter. You're living in that big house alone. It doesn't make sense at your age. Wouldn't it be more comfortable to move into a nice senior community? You'd have people to take care of you, activities, companionship. I froze at her words. That wasn't a suggestion, it was a strategy. I could feel it. She wanted me moved out, stripped of independence, tucked away while they took the spoils of my home. My own son sat there, letting her words hang, not even objecting. That silence stabbed deeper than anything. I'm not leaving my home, I said firmly. That's the place your mother and I built. Every memory I have of her lives in those walls. You can't ask me to give that up so you two can chase another scheme. Clarissa's smile didn't falter, but her eyes hardened. Martin shifted uncomfortably. For a moment, I thought I saw regret flash across his face, but it was gone quickly. The waiter arrived then, placing cups of steaming coffee in front of us, breaking the silence with clinking porcelain. I reached for my cup, needing the warmth to steady myself. But before I could lift it, Martin's hand shot out, grabbing his own cup and tossing the scalding liquid across the table straight onto my shirt, my chest, my lap. I gasped, the heat burning through cloth into skin. Pain flared, and I shot up from my chair, clutching the fabric. The restaurant gasped around us. A woman shrieked. The waiter dropped a tray, and Martin just sat there, his face twisted in an expression I couldn't read: anger, or desperation, or maybe even triumph. Clarissa leaned back, lips curling faintly as if this was exactly the scene she had wanted. I stood trembling, coffee dripping onto the floor. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the whispers around us. For a split second, I thought it had been an accident. My son would never do such a thing intentionally. But then I saw the way Clarissa leaned toward him, whispering quickly, her hand tightening on his arm. This was no accident. This was a performance. They wanted me to look helpless, old, incapable. To the restaurant full of strangers, I was a frail man losing control, maybe even confused. It was the perfect picture for the story they wanted to paint, that I was weak, senile, in need of being tucked away while they handled my affairs. I breathed slowly, forcing calm over the burning pain. My hand slipped into my pocket and touched the envelope I had carried there all day. Inside was a check of $1 million. I had planned to give it to Martin that evening, not because he deserved it, but because I still wanted to believe in him, still wanted to believe blood was thicker than betrayal. But standing there, dripping coffee, seeing the smug calculation in Clarissa's eyes, I knew what I had to do. Slowly I pulled the envelope out, opened it, and tore the check clean in two. Then I tore it again, the pieces fluttering like snowflakes onto the stained tablecloth. Martin's eyes widened, his mouth parting in shock. "Dad, what are you doing?" "I was ready to give you this tonight," I said, my voice steady despite the burn. "But I see now you're not worthy of it. You've let greed twist you. Let her guide you down a path where you'd humiliate your own father. No more, Martin. No more." Clarissa's mask finally cracked. "Walter, you're overreacting." I raised a hand, silencing her. The restaurant was silent now, eyes on us, the whole place heavy with judgment. "I may be old," I said slowly, "but I am not blind, and I will not be made a fool in public or in private." With that, I dropped the torn pieces onto the table and walked out, leaving them staring at the ruins of what could have been theirs. The cool night air outside hit me like a wave of freedom and sorrow all at once. I knew then, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival, about reclaiming the dignity they were trying to strip from me. That night, as I undressed and touched the burn marks left on my chest, I realized something bitter but true. My own son had chosen greed over love, manipulation over respect. And that was the night I decided I would not give him or Clarissa the chance to destroy me. The morning after the coffee incident, I stood before my bathroom mirror, my shirt unbuttoned, staring at the angry red blotches on my chest. The burn stung, but the wound inside me stung more. It wasn't just the coffee. It was my son's silence when Clarissa suggested stripping me of my home. It was his hand that threw the cup. It was the realization that somewhere along the way, Martin had stopped being my boy and had become her weapon. I thought perhaps after that scene, they would retreat, ashamed of what they had done. But I underestimated Clarissa's cunning. Within days, whispers began to circle among my neighbors. At first it was a subtle question about whether I was managing okay on my own, a suggestion that perhaps I had looked a bit confused at the grocery store. Then it escalated. A friend from church stopped me after service, her eyes heavy with concern. "Walter," I heard, "are you struggling with your memory? Should we be worried?" My heart sank. I knew instantly where this trail of rumors led. Clarissa was spinning a story. The coffee stunt had been Act 1, the gossip campaign was Act 2. And Martin? He was the echo chamber, repeating whatever narrative she designed, never once defending me, never once remembering I was the man who carried him on my shoulders at parades, who taught him how to ride a bike. The neighborhood Facebook group became their stage. Posts began to appear, Clarissa writing long, heartfelt messages about how difficult it was to care for an aging father-in-law who refused help, how tragic it was to watch me decline, how she and Martin were just trying to protect me from myself. People commented with sympathy, with praise for their supposed devotion. And I, scrolling through those words on my old laptop, felt invisible inside my own story. But I wasn't confused. I wasn't helpless. I was angry, yes, but beneath that anger grew something sharper. Resolve. If they wanted to paint me as senile, I would show the world otherwise. If they wanted to strip me of my dignity, I would preserve it with truth. I began keeping a journal. Every encounter with Martin and Clarissa I documented. The date, the time, their words, my words. I recorded when Martin called to push me about money, when Clarissa suggested again that I look into assisted living, when they showed up unannounced with pamphlets about nursing homes. Every manipulation I captured on paper. I set up a camera by my front door. I saved every text message, every email. I even recorded phone calls with my lawyer's guidance, ensuring I had evidence. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. They thought they were weaving a net around me, but I was quietly cutting through the strands before they could pull it tight. One afternoon, a social worker knocked on my door. "Mr. Walter, I've been asked to do a wellness check. We received reports that you may be unable to care for yourself." Reports. My stomach tightened, but I smiled warmly. "Come in," I said. I showed her my tidy home, my stocked pantry, my medications lined up and organized. I brewed her tea, sat with her, and conversed clearly about world events and local matters. She left looking puzzled, perhaps even a little embarrassed, as though she had expected to find a crumbling man and instead met someone still sharp as glass. Later that week my doctor called. "Walter, your son scheduled you for a cognitive evaluation." He says he's concerned about dementia. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly, the betrayal slicing deeper. I agreed to the evaluation not because I doubted myself but because I wanted more proof. I walked into that clinic, answered every question, solved every problem, remembered every word the specialist asked me to repeat. When the results came back clear, I felt a grim satisfaction. Another card from their deck had turned into ash. But Martin and Clarissa didn't stop. They visited less, but when they did, it was only to push. "Dad, you're alone all the time. Don't you get lonely?" Martin would ask, his voice strained, as though reading lines off a script. Clarissa would chime in. "It's just, what if you fall? What if you forget to turn off the stove? We're thinking of your safety." I wanted to shout at them. I wanted to remind Martin of the nights I stayed up with him when he was sick, the money I scraped together to put him through college, the sacrifices I made so he could have opportunities one never had. Instead, I kept my tone even, my anger hidden. "I am fine," I told them. But inside I vowed, the next move would be mine. I met with my attorney, Mr. Hayes, a silver-haired man who had been a friend of mine for decades. I laid out everything. The coffee, the rumors, the social worker visit, the attempts to push me into selling my home. I handed him the journal, the recordings, and the test results. He listened quietly, nodding. Then he said, "Walter, if you want to protect yourself, it's time to take action with your estate. Right now." And so I did. Together we drafted a new will. Martin and Clarissa, who had been circling my wealth like vultures, were cut out completely. Every cent, every property, every investment, I redirected it toward charities that meant something to me. Scholarships for underprivileged youth, a local hospital foundation, community food banks. If my own blood could not value me for more than my wallet, then others would. When I signed those papers, a strange calm filled me. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt in control again. They thought they were stripping me of power, but in truth, I was quietly moving the board pieces, setting the stage for the checkmate they never saw coming. That night, I sat alone on my porch, the summer air warm against my skin, and watched the stars prick holes into the darkness above. I felt sorrow that my life had come to this, sorrow that Martin had fallen so far. But beneath the sorrow pulsed strength. If they wanted to drag me into war, then I would fight with dignity, with strategy, with patience. I wasn't senile. I wasn't broken. I was Walter, the man who had built a life from nothing, who had survived grief, who had loved deeply and lost deeply. And now, I was the man who would not bow to betrayal. The night I chose Bella Vista again for dinner, I did it deliberately. The same restaurant where Martin had humiliated me would now be the place where I showed him and Clarissa that I had not only survived their schemes but risen above them. As I sat down at the familiar table, I felt a calmness inside me that I hadn't known in months. My burns had healed, though faint scars lingered as a reminder of the fire they tried to pour over my dignity. Tonight, however, those scars would be my armor. Martin and Clarissa arrived late, striding in with that air of superiority they had perfected. Clarissa wore a red dress, her chin high, her eyes scanning the room like a queen entering her court. Martin walked slightly behind her, shoulders tense, lips pressed into a thin line. They took their seats across from me, and for a brief moment, none of us spoke. Only the clinking of cutlery from surrounding tables filled the silence. "Dad," Martin finally said, his voice tight, "we need to talk about your future." I smiled, leaning back. "Yes, Martin. That's exactly why I called you here." Clarissa crossed her arms, tilting her head. "Walter, you can't keep pretending you're fine. Everyone sees it. The confusion, the forgetfulness. You're endangering yourself. It's selfish to refuse our help." I let her words hang in the air, then calmly placed a folder on the table. Confusion. I opened it, sliding out a series of papers. "This is the cognitive evaluation your husband scheduled for me. Read the results. No dementia. No decline. Sharp as ever." Her confident smile faltered. Martin reached for the papers, scanning quickly. His face tightened, eyes narrowing. "And here," I continued, pulling out more sheets. Letters from the social worker who visited. Notes on how I handled myself, the cleanliness of my home, the order of my life. She wrote, and I quote, Mr. Walter is perfectly capable of caring for himself. Clarissa's lips parted slightly, but no words came. I could feel the walls of their lies beginning to crumble. I wasn't finished. I placed my leather-bound journal on the table, sliding it across to them. Every conversation we've had, every push, every manipulation, it's all in here. Dates, times, word for word. Along with recordings and messages. If I wanted, I could take this to court and let a judge see how you've tried to dismantle my life. Martin's face turned pale, the arrogance draining from him. Dad, why would you? Because you forced me, I cut in sharply. My voice carried, and a few diners glanced over, sensing the storm brewing. I didn't lower it. Because you threw hot coffee on me to make me look weak. Because you let your wife orchestrate a smear campaign that dragged my name through mud. Because you abandoned love for greed. Clarissa finally snapped, her composure shattering. You're being dramatic. We only wanted to protect you. You're old, Walter, you can't see how vulnerable you are. I leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Protect me? By plotting to sell my home? By writing lies online? By trying to have me declared incompetent so you could snatch what doesn't belong to you?
No, Clarissa.
You don't want to protect me, you want to profit off me. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of my fingers tapping the final document I had placed in the folder. And that brings me to this. I pulled out a crisp copy of my new will. Their eyes immediately locked onto it like predators spotting prey. This is the last time you'll ever see my wealth tied to your names, I said. You are disinherited. Everything I own, every dollar, every property, every account has been redirected. Scholarships, hospitals, food banks, organizations that will use it to build lives rather than destroy them. You get nothing. Martin's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he half rose, fists clenched. His lips trembled with rage. Dad, you can't after everything I've done for you, after everything I sacrificed. I held up a hand.
No, Martin.
It was me who sacrificed. For you. For years. And this is how you repay me with betrayal. Blood may bind us, but respect sustains us. And you have none left to give. Clarissa hissed under her breath, her nails digging into Martin's arm, urging him to sit back down. He obeyed, though his eyes burned into mine with a mixture of fury and helplessness. I gathered the documents, slid them back into the folder, and stood. I came here tonight not to argue, not to explain, but to finish this. You wanted me weak, hidden away, forgotten. But I am here. I am strong. And I will not let you destroy what I've built. With that, I walked out of Bella Vista, leaving behind their silence, their shock, their carefully laid schemes crumbling like sandcastles in the tide. In the weeks that followed, my life took a new shape. I poured my energy into volunteering at the community center, teaching children chess and mentoring teenagers who needed guidance. I donated to hospitals and food programs, and I saw firsthand the difference my money could make in lives that valued it, in lives that valued me. I found friends again, true ones, not bound by obligation but by genuine respect and shared laughter. The emptiness that Martin and Clarissa tried to carve into my life filled slowly with new voices, new connections, new meaning. And though the ache of losing my son lingered, I understood something deeper. Family isn't only blood. Family is those who stand by you with respect, with love, with truth. I had lost Martin, yes, but I had gained clarity. And clarity is a freedom no money can buy. As I sit here tonight, writing these words, I feel peace. Not because revenge brought me joy, but because dignity brought me healing. They wanted me broken, but I rose unbroken. They wanted me erased, but I remain, not only alive but renewed. Moral lesson. Life teaches us painful lessons through those closest to us. Betrayal by family cuts deepest, but it also forces us to learn the true meaning of love and respect. I learned that wealth is not safe when handed to ungrateful hearts, and blood is not family when poisoned by greed. True family is found in kindness, in loyalty, in those who uplift rather than tear down. If you ever feel trapped by manipulation, know this. Your dignity is yours to protect, your voice is yours to use, and your life is yours to live. Age is not a weakness. It is strength, sharpened by years of survival. My journey was not easy, but it taught me that sometimes, to save yourself, you must let go of those who choose betrayal over love. And in that letting go, You create space for new life, new meaning, and new joy. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what lesson do you carry from this tale?